Walter Block is an American Austrian school economist and anarcho-capitalist theorist. He was the Harold E. Wirth Eminent Scholar Endowed Chair in Economics at the School of Business at Loyola University in New Orleans, and a former senior fellow of the Ludwig von Mises Institute. Please welcome Walter Block.
Thank you. I think I'm supposed to speak on anarchism
Yes.
for about half hour or so, and then do Q&A. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And are we
That's
now taping? Yeah, I see we're taping. Okay, so let me start. I'm a big fan of Menger and of the Austrian school, and it's not really got much to do with the country Austria. It's just that the people who started it were in Austria: Menger, Bombewerk, Mises, Hayek. It's sort of like the Chicago school. It's got nothing to do with the city of Chicago. It's just that the Chicago school people were all at the University of Chicago. But the Austrian school of thought is what shall I say, a positive enterprise. Namely, it tries to explain what causes what. Why do we have depressions? Why do we have unemployment? Why do we have inflation? And how to stop them. Whereas libertarianism is very different. It's not so much a positive science, it's more a normative science, what should be. And if you're asking about anarchism, I think we're in the libertarian area, not in the Austrian area. There are a lot of people who call themselves, as I do, Austrian libertarians or Austro-libertarians. And that's just a shorthand form, because really Austrianism and libertarianism are sort of like oil and water. They don't really mix. It's just that there are a lot of people who are both. So it's easier, it's a shorthand to describe us that way. So I'm now going to not wear my Austrian hat. I'm going to wear my libertarian hat. So what's libertarianism? Well, what libertarianism is a theory of a just law. That's all it is. It's just a question of what is justice in legal matters. And the answer, I think, is we should prohibit murder, rape, theft, arson, kidnapping, and that's about it. I might have left out fraud or one or two other things like that, but the key here for the libertarian is, what is just law? Just law is to prohibit any invasions of other people. And the way I see libertarianism, it's really got sort of three foundational aspects. The first one is the non-aggression principle. What's the non-aggression principle? You can do anything you damn well please. Just don't be grabbing other people or their property without their permission. Now, boxing is okay. And if I punch you in the nose or you punch me in the nose, it's okay. It's compatible with libertarianism, because, and also masochism between consenting adults should not be against the law, because it doesn't violate the NAP, the NAP, the non-aggression principle. I have to tell you my SM joke. The what is it? The masochist says to the sadist, "Beat me," and the sadist says, "No." Well, I'm not a very good joke teller, but I'm trying my best to lighten this up here. Okay, so that's the first principle. The second principle is, I'm now going to grab, I don't know, I see a computer on the desk and I'm going to grab it. Am I a thief? Did I violate rights? Well, it all depends upon who's the proper owner of the computer that I see on your desk there. Now, if I do it, I'm a thief because I never saw it before, and I certainly don't own it. It belongs to one of you people. Well, how do we determine who owns what? How do we, what's the libertarian theory of private property rights? Well, it's in two stages. The first stage is homesteading of virgin territory, land that's never been used, or a cow that's never been domesticated. And John Locke, our hero on this, says that if you mix your labor with the land or with the cow by domesticating it, you're the proper owner of that. And then Robert Nozick, an eminent libertarian, had this theory called title transfer. And title transfer means any legitimate voluntary interaction, such as buying and selling and renting and investing and stuff like that. So I domesticate a cow, and you grow some corn on your property, and now we trade. And even though I didn't produce the corn, I have the corn. And even though you didn't produce the milk, you now have the milk. So we can trace my legitimate ownership to corn, even though I didn't produce it, to homesteading and barter, and vice versa for you. And the third principle of libertarianism is free association. No one should be compelled to associate with anyone else against their will. The problem with rape is that the rape victim doesn't want to associate with the rapist. The rapist wants to associate with her, but she doesn't want to associate with him. So no one should be compelled to associate with anyone else against their will. And I think, they say that if a monkey says supply and demand, he can answer almost any economic question. Well, I think that if the libertarian keeps these three principles in mind, he can answer any question in political philosophy. Okay, with this introduction to libertarianism, now let me talk a little bit about anarchism. I see anarchism as the highest level of libertarianism. And by the way, I think only 1% of libertarians are anarcho-capitalists. The other three groups, I would say, are minarchists, where they think that the government has one legitimate function, and that would be protecting the citizens or the residents. And to that end, you needed armies to keep foreign bad guys off of us, police to keep local bad guys off of us, and courts to determine who the good guys and the bad guys are. And the most famous people of the minarchist view would be, I guess, Ayn Rand and Robert Nozick. The next level down, I would call constitutionalists. I would say Ron Paul, who we just mentioned before, is a constitutionalist, but a constitutionalist not as the Supreme Court would interpret the Constitution, but as he would. Why is the constitutionalist a little bit below the minarchist? Because the Constitution adds, in addition to armies, courts, and police, post offices, don't ask, and roads, which I'll have something to say about later. And then the fourth level lower than that would be classical liberals. And there it's armies, courts, and police, and roads, and highways, and a few other things. Very, very limited welfare, and something about public goods, and maybe communicable diseases, and that's about it. And the people most associated with that would be Milton Friedman and Friedrich Hayek. Let me pause for a second. Am I being too, I want to hit you guys where you are. Am I being too freshmanish? Am I being too repetitive? Is all this, everyone knows all this stuff already and I'm just boring you? How am I doing? Am I hitting the right level of your
Yeah,
interest?
I think this is great. We definitely would love to hear more of anarchism and your philosophy on that to help us better understand it.
Okay, great. I just want to,
Okay.
I don't want to go so fast that nobody understands me, and I don't want to go so slow that you say boring, boring. We know all this. So if I'm in the middle there, I guess I'll proceed.
Yeah, maybe the technicalities, the mechanisms of anarchy, perhaps.
Okay, well, I'm going to get to that now with this introduction. So, and I would say each of these three groups are 33% of all libertarians, and 1%, my guru, my mentor on this is Murray Rothbard. Okay, so what's the case for anarcho-capitalism? Why is the government incompatible with libertarianism, which would be the view of the anarcho-capitalist? Well, first of all, taxes. Taxes are compulsory payments. We just passed April 15th. And if you rotten kids didn't pay your taxes, you're going to get a letter. It's going to be a nice letter. The first letter will be, hey, we really need the money. Did you forget? Please pay, something like that. And then the next letter, well, it's 3 months later. And, if you don't pay it quickly, we're going to be very upset. But eventually, if you don't pay your taxes, there's gonna be a guy with a blue uniform and a badge and a gun, and he's gonna say, "Come with me." And if you don't come with him, he's gonna shoot you. Taxes are compulsion. Now, people say, well, it's really a voluntary tax system. I had a full head of hair before I heard that, and I've been pulling my hair out. Look at me now. The taxes are not a voluntary system. If you don't pay, Vivian Kellums was a tax protester. They put her in jail. Um, uh, Taxes are not voluntary, and we have a word for compelling people to pay money that they haven't agreed to pay. And it's called, we're going to protect and give us that money whether you like it or not. So there's a little bit of a logical contradiction here. On the one hand, they're protecting us. On the other hand, they're compelling us to pay for it. It's almost like a protection racket. The mafia comes to you and says, you have a nice little store here. It would be very bad if something bad happened to it. So give us money and we'll protect you. Well, yes, they're protecting you from other people, but the main people that they're protecting you from is them. Namely, the government. Yes, they're protecting us against the bad guys of various stripes and varieties, but they're also protecting us against them. So taxes are not voluntary, and this violates the non-aggression principle. So it's hard to see how these other three versions of libertarianism can really reconcile. Okay, the next point I want to make, and I've got a long list here, is do we have anarchy, or is anarchy some sort of weird, wild-eyed perversion? No, we have anarchy. We have international anarchy. What is the relationship of Canada and Chile? What is the relationship of Brazil and Burundi? What's the relationship of, I don't know, France and Cuba? It's one of anarchy. There's no world government. Look, the reason that we have to have a domestic government is that I might get into a fight with one of you. And if I get into a fight with one of you, we need a government to, I don't know, uphold order, make sure we don't fight, determine who is in the right and who is in the wrong. Well, if that's true, then don't we need a world government to make sure that Canada and don't get into it with each other? I'm making an two citizens, you and I, on the one hand, and on the other hand, a world government and the nations. And I say, if the local government is justified, so is the world government. But the world government is not very popular. I'm Jewish, and my people are always running from one place to another. We go to Germany, they kick us out. We go to Poland, they kick us out. We go here, we go there. If there was a world government, there'd be no place for us to run. Mars isn't open yet for people to go to. The moon isn't open. If there were a world government, there'd be no place to go. And it's not just Jewish people that would worry about this. A lot of people would worry about this. If the world government was democratic, it would resemble India and China, because India and China each have, what, 1.5 billion people, something like that. And if we had democracy, they wouldn't have a majority. I think the world is 8 billion and they'd only have 3 billion. But by gum and by golly, the world government would resemble India and China. And do we really want to be ruled by India and China? Most people don't. So if you don't want to be ruled by India and China and you don't want to have a world government, you have to acknowledge the fact that anarchism isn't that crazy, because we have anarchism in the world. And the only way to get rid of world anarchism is to have world government. And most of us don't want world government. So therefore, we shouldn't think of anarchism as, just totally off the wall. Okay, my next thing is secession. Now remember, the third plank, or the third principle, or the third foundation of libertarianism was free association. Nobody should be compelled to associate with anyone else against his will. Now, suppose that I'm in New Orleans, federal government, and we have a majority that says, yes, we don't like the federal government. Trump is crazy. We want to leave. Do we have a right to do that? Well, yeah. If you believe in free association, nobody should be compelled to associate with anyone else against their will. And we Louisianians don't want to associate with you guys. You're in California. You're a bunch of bums. We don't want to have anything to do with you. Obviously, I'm kidding about you people. Want to have something to do with you. I'm just being silly here. But the idea is from Louisiana. Well, yeah. Well, I don't like what they're doing in Baton Rouge. The hell with Baton Rouge. They're a bunch of bums, and we Louisianans want to secede in Louisiana. Should Uptown, which is, I don't know, 10 square blocks or so, should we be able to secede from New Orleans? Yes. And I live on a certain block on St. Charles Avenue, and my block, I don't know how many people are in my block. I don't know, maybe 300. We want to secede from Uptown. Do we have a right from my block? I want to have my own country, the Walter country. Rah, rah, rah. I'll get my own flag. I'll get a national anthem. I want to have a flag. I want to have my own country. Do I have a right to do that? Why not? Why ever not? So the anarcho-capitalist view is secession down to the individual level, if that's what the individuals want. Or put it another way, we anarchists want to have 8 billion countries. Each person should have his own country. Each person should be sovereign. If you want to ask a girl out for a date, you can't ask the girl out for a date. You have to get your foreign minister and her foreign minister, and you have to, I'm kidding about that. But the idea here is that we should have individual sovereignty. Nobody should rule over us. Yes, paternalism is okay. His diaper changed. Yeah, you got to change his diaper, whether he likes it or not. The 4-year-old doesn't want to brush his teeth. You got to make him brush his teeth. But for adults to be told to be coerced is not libertarian, and therefore we should have individual secession. Okay, the next topic on my list is how do you start a government? Right now, let's say we have, I don't know, 360 million people, and there's no government in the United States. Work with me. This is a scenario. And all of a sudden, somebody wants to have a government. Well, how do you do it? Or let me take a more realistic case. At one time, there were 13 colonies, 1776 or whenever it was in the late 18th century. And somebody's out in Ohio or Western Pennsylvania, which was really the boonies in those days. And the government agent comes out to him and says, hey, we're starting the government. It's called the 13 colonies or the United States. And this guy in Ohio or Pennsylvania says, oh, that's wonderful. I wish you the best of luck. We'll be good neighbors. We'll trade. And the guy from Washington, D.C., although it wasn't Washington, D.C. in those days, I think it was Philadelphia or maybe New York, I'm not sure. He says, you don't understand. You're part of the government. And there's some sort of joke about I wouldn't join any group that would have me. I forget who started that. And this guy, like that, he says, you know, I'm not a joiner. I don't want to join your government. And well, what's that? That's almost like kidnapping. It's certainly a violation of the law of free association. So how do you start a government? You can't start a government compatible with libertarian principles of non-aggression. Starting a government is per se a violation of rights. It's anti-libertarian. Those other 3 versions of libertarianism, I respect them. I used to be one of them before I graduated to anarcho-capitalism, but they're wrong. They're incompatible. The next thing on my list is economics. In economics, every interaction, buying and selling and renting and bartering and is unanimous. I bought this shirt for $10, let's say. I agreed, and you sold me, let's say, we both agreed. I paid $10 for it, and how much did I value it at? Had to be more than 10. If it was just 10, I wouldn't have bestirred myself, get off my couch. I valued it at 15, so I made a $15 profit. You valued it at $1. You have thousands of these. You're trying to get rid of them, so you made a $9 profit. Now the Marxists would say, well, it was mutual exploitation, but that's a little crazy. Later on, I might have regretted buying the shirt. It's out of style. You might have regretted it selling it to me because, I don't know, the value of shirts went up. Who knows? Usually, even ex post, it's mutually beneficial. Is government unanimous? No. There's a majority vote. Well, why should I be bound? I'm in the losing part of the majority. I voted for Kamala Harris. Let's say I didn't, but let's suppose. And Donald Trump won. Well, I'm disappointed, and there's no unanimity. Well, in the market, there's unanimity, and in government, there's not unanimity. Unanimity is just another word for non-aggression. Because now, look, if you agreed to be bound by it, that's okay. I'm in a chess club. And in order to be in the chess club, you agree to be bound by the majority vote. And now there's a big debate. Should the meeting be on Wednesday night or Tuesday night? And they decide Tuesday night and you wanted Wednesday night. Well, you could leave the club, or you could be bound. If you agreed to be bound by the majority vote, then you should go on the night that you don't want to go. But you've agreed to be bound by the government. By the government of the chess club. But you didn't agree to be bound by the U.S. Did anyone sign any contract with the United States government? Now, there are people that sign agreements with the U.S. government. I happen to be a landed immigrant, a dual citizen of U.S. and Canada. I was born in Brooklyn, and I was a U.S. citizen for many years, and then I got a job in Canada. And in order to get that job, I had to agree to some sort of something for the Canadian government, and I crossed my fingers when I swore up and down. But the question is, it's a sort of a circular argument. Did they have a right to compel me to do that? And I would say, no, they're a criminal gang. They had no such right. And therefore, when I agreed to it, I agreed in quotes or with my fingers crossed that it was not illicit because they had no right to. Even they, yes, immigrants signed up. They agreed to some sort of contract, but the government had no right to impose that on them. Whereas most of us are, just born in the U.S. and that's it. We didn't agree to the U.S. Constitution. Okay. I now want to get into some more technical stuff. One argument against anarcho-capitalism is, well, if we had anarchism, other countries would take us over. The Chinese would run rampant. Heck with the Chinese or the Russians, the Canadians, the Mexicans would invade us. We'd be weak and powerless. And I want to offer two examples where this was not true, namely that the private defense agencies, which I should have mentioned, I'm going out of order. Well, let me start there. Right now, do you know we have more private cops than we have government cops? It's true. The cops in the mall, the cops in the athletic stadium, the cops in the airport. Well, I'm not sure about the airport, but in the mall, they're all private cops. So suppose we had no government, how would we stop murders and rapes? Well, we'd have private defense agencies. And the private defense agency would charge a fee to protect you, and then you would be protected by them. And the benefit of private cops is that they would just focus on protecting people, whereas what do the government cops do? They do protect you. If they see a rape or an attempted murder, they're going to stop it, and God bless them for that. But on the other hand, They try to stop prostitution between consenting adults. They try to stop drugs between consenting adults. Sometimes they try to stop gambling. Sometimes they try to stop other capitalist acts between consenting adults, in the felicitous phrase of Robert Nozick. Whereas the private cops don't do that, they just protect you. So if any foreign enemy wanted to attack us, well, these private defense agencies would get together and they would have an agreement to do that initially and fight together. Let me give you two examples of that. Somalia is considered an anarchist area. I can't say an anarchist state because that's a contradiction in terms, but just the 1948 war in Israel, there really was no IDF in 48. Rather, it was the Irgun and the Palmach and the Lehigh and other groups. The Palestinians would call them terrorists. I would just call them private defense agencies. And they beat the five armies of Egypt and I forget, Syria and Iraq and a few other countries. So here are two examples where you had private defense agencies successfully fought off other armies, and namely nobody's invading Somalia, and five armies against Israel. So you don't really need a U.S. military to defend us. You could have private defense agencies. Now let me talk about what I want to talk about now. I want to talk about courts. And here's a very technical area. Consider five people, A, B, C, D, and E. A, B, C, D, and E. Albert, Bob, I don't know, Charlie, David, and Ed. Or just A, B, C, and D. Five people. And A and E get into a squabble with each other. How would it work without a government court? No government courts. We're in an anarchist country, and A and E, Albert and Ed, disagree on something. Who knows what? Who cares? But they disagree. So A goes to E and says, look, I'm a civilized person. I don't want to fight you. I want to settle this through law. Let's go to court B, Bob. And E says, what? Bob's your brother. I don't want to go to his court. What are you, crazy? And Ed then says to A, Albert, let's go to court D, as in David. And Albert says, what, David? He's your father. I'm not going to go to his court. And so each one goes to his own court. A goes to court B, and E goes to court D. Everyone following this? Yes?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Yes.
And now there are four possibilities. One possibility is that court A and court B and court D together both agree with A. Got it? Even though D is E's father, D goes against his son and says A is in the right. And E has got to accept this. One, because he signed a contract that when you went to court D, he made an agreement with court D to abide by the decision. I mean, if you don't abide by the decision, what's the point? And also, each court has its own private police, which will uphold the thing. And there's no violation of libertarian principle because you've agreed to be bound by the decision of the court, and the court went against you, and now they use violence against you. That's not initiatory violence. That's defensive violence. Okay, so one possibility is that court B and court D both agree with A. Another possibility is that B and D both agree with E. Similar result. Now, one possibility is that D agrees with A, and I'm getting mixed up. D agrees with A, and B agrees with E. But let's forget about that. Let's take the case where B supports A and D supports E. Okay? And now Ayn Rand said, blank out. What can we do now? There's nothing to be said. And she rejected anarcho-capitalism. And now I have to introduce another concept called what the hell is it called? It's called, oh yeah, bandit courts versus legitimate courts. A legitimate court will have anticipated this very thing. Namely, I'm a legitimate court, you're a legitimate court. We come up with opposite conclusions. What do? Well, if we're legitimate, we have a contract with each other. One, to coalesce in case the Martians attack or the Chinese attack or whoever's going to attack. And the other is, I didn't mention C, Charlie. I forgot about him. I was talking about A, B, D, and E. Now it's time to bring in Charlie, C. We two legitimate courts, you're B and I'm D, we have a contract with each other. And it says that if ever we come up on the opposite sides of any dispute, we'll go to C. Because C is, and you know, the next time A could be the court or E could be the court, and no longer would courts be picked on the basis of, I don't know what, Obama picking him or Donald Trump picking him. Court judges would now be picked on the basis of wisdom you know, people would say, even if they lost, they would say, well, you know, the judge was very sensible, even though I lost. They would have, I don't know what, in Yiddish, seichel or brilliance or something like that. Okay, so if B and D are both legitimate courts, there's no problem. They go to C and that's it. But now there are bandit courts. What's a bandit court? A bandit court says, my way or the highway. You disagree with me? The hell with you. We're going to fight. And the answer is the bandit courts are going to have to fight with each other. The legitimate courts, not only are they going to have to fight with other bandit courts, they're going to have to fight with legitimate courts also. They're going to have to fight with every court. Fighting is expensive. Whereas the legitimate courts are only going to have to fight with bandit courts. And there is such a thing as, I don't know what, popularity or whatever. Even the mafia, as depicted in, what was that movie, the mafia movie?
The Godfather.
The Godfather. When the baker, thanks, I need all the help I can get. I'm getting senile here in my elderly. The baker went to the Godfather and said, this guy raped my daughter, kill him. And the Godfather said, you know, raping is very bad, but murder is not really justified, but I'm going to get him a beating that he'll never forget. So even the Godfather, as depicted in the movie, I don't know about reality, but as depicted in the movie, was sort of sensible. I mean, you know, murder is a little rough for rape, but not that rape is a good thing. It's a very bad thing, but a severe beating, it seems to be more reasonable, or at least depicted in that movie. So this would be the way to deal with the courts. Let me give you one more illustration. I've done armies, I've done police, and I've done courts. Let me do the fourth most, what's the word, problematic view of anarchism, and that's highways and roads. A lot of people say, what, you're an anarchist? Well, who's going to build the roads? Well, I have a book. Where's my book? Here's my book. It's called The Privatization of Roads and Highways. It's a big fat book. I don't know how many pages. Oh, it's 500 pages. And the first half, what I do is I try to say how private roads would work without any government, without any eminent domain. Everyone knows what eminent domain is. We want to build a road. You guys are in California. I'm in Louisiana. I want to build a road between me and you. How many people own property between us? I don't know, 10,000, 100,000, a lot of people. And I start building a road, and all of a sudden there's a holdout. My favorite holdout is Cartman from South Park, a great libertarian cartoon. And Cartman's motto is "Screw you guys, screw you guys, screw you guys." And Cartman says, "Sure, I'll let you build a road right through my property. That'll be $1 trillion." And let's say that means that, you know, it's impossible to build a road. Well, what we could do is we could go under him. A tunnel under him or a bridge over him. Now, there's this thing called the ad coelum doctrine, ADCOELM, something like that. I'm a bad speller. Ad coelum, ADCOELM, something like that. And what it says is if you own a square mile of the earth, You own up into the heavens and down into the core of the earth. And this is not libertarian. It would play havoc with airplanes because every time an airplane goes over Farmer Jones's patch, Farmer Jones is going to say that's $10 or something like that. You couldn't have airplanes. And you couldn't have slant drilling. What's slant drilling? I go down and then under your property and then I get copper, gold or oil or something. But the libertarian view it at 30,000 feet above the earth. You haven't homesteaded 4 miles down. So if I go 4 miles down and across under you, I'm not violating your rights. So one way to deal with Cartman is we build a bridge over him or a tunnel under him. But Cartman's smarter. What he does is he starts putting sticks up there and sticks down there, so he'll be the first to homestead. The problem is he owns miles and miles of territory. And how wide is the highway? Well, 150 feet wide, 6 lanes, 10 feet each lane, and a median. So we're going to beat him. Okay, why did I write this book? Why did I get so hopped up about privatizing roads? The main reason is because, do you know how many people die on the roads? It's around 40,000 people a year. 40,000 people is a lot of people. 50,000 U.S. servicemen died in Vietnam, but that was a one-shot deal, or rather a 5-year deal. It took 5 years for 50,000 people to be killed. And there were a lot of Vietnamese killed also. This is 40,000 every year. Katrina only killed 1,900 people. 9/11 only killed 3,000 people. This is 40 died. And several 100,000 are very seriously injured. So how could private roads help? Well, right? I mean, the reason we have pretty good shirts and the reason we have pretty good cough drops and the reason we have pretty good computers and the reason we have pretty good tables that you're all sitting around is because of competition. Some people do this, some people do that. Some entrepreneurs invent this, invent that, and then some of them go broke because they're doing a bad job and others do well. But in roads, there's one rule of the road and it emanates from Washington, D.C. I live right near the I-10, which goes from Florida to California. The minimum speed there is 40 miles an hour and the maximum speed is 70. Every once in a while, there's somebody doing 65 in the left lane. It's true, they say slow cars stay to the right, but they never give a ticket for that. So this guy's doing 65 or 70 in the left lane, and everybody else wants to do 75 or 80 with no traffic, and it's pretty safe to do that. So they have to go around them. And I think lane changing might, maybe, cause deaths. I think it might. It seems plausible. So on my road, well, you know what I'm going to do? In the right lane, everyone has to do 60. And in the left lane, everyone has to do 70. And in the left lane, everyone has to do 80. Would that save lives? I don't know. And on your road, you're going to go 55, 70, and 85. Would that save lives? I don't know. The point is, we don't know. That's a horrible situation to be in, where we don't know if a different road, rules of the road would save lives, because the government in Washington, D.C. is making the rules of the road for everybody. And, you know, we don't even have 50 laboratories, because each state has to abide by the federal government, otherwise they won't give them money. Well, if we had different private road owners, some of us would try this, some of us would try that. The first half of this book is a whole bunch of suggestions just like that. And the second half of the book is objections, dealing with objections. Like one objection is, well, if there were a private road owner and I owned the road outside your door, and every time you wanted to go in or out, I'd charge you well, that would be a good objection. But I'm not going to put my house on near your road unless I can contractually tie you up, so you can't do that. Okay, it's about 40 minutes. I was supposed to do 30, so I'm 10 minutes over. Let me just summarize. I'm a libertarian, and I think that libertarian principles are non-aggression and homesteading and free association. and therefore I'm an anarcho-capitalist because I think system purely, perfectly congruent with libertarian principles, whereas the other schools of thought or the other divisions of libertarianism are quasi, demi, semi good. I mean, they're good. I'm pro-libertarian, even the non-anarcho-capitalist version. But I think that in terms of armies, courts, police, and roads, the anarchist case is legitimate. And I haven't, said why we should privatize the post office because that's not really much of a challenge. I'm trying to take the worst case scenario or the most powerful objections to libertarianism, anarcho-capitalism variety, and deal with that. So that's my or arguments or suggestions or whatever. Your turn.
Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for your talk. I just have a question about the non-aggression principle. More precisely, I wonder how do you evidence or like arrive at the existence of like because it seems to me that the libertarian school kind of takes the non-aggression principle at face value, but I would like to hear a little bit more about the thinking behind like how did you arrive at the fact that it does exist?
That's a very good question. What you're asking now is not so much what are the implications of it, what's the view on asking, well, how'd you get as place? And there are various theories as to how you got to the non-aggression principle and private property based on homesteading free association. One of them is God said so. In the Bible, it says, keep your mitts to yourself and don't be grabbing other people in their property. That's one. Ayn Rand gets it from A is A. Don't ask me how she does it, but she says A is A. You can deduce non-aggression principle. I think it's a little weird, but what the heck. By the way, she was the one who converted me to this, so I have a sort of a soft, warm spot for her, but I really can't see how A equals A can deduce to the non-aggression principle. Another one is, what's it called? Natural law. The idea here is that whenever eminent jurists, judges got together, this was part and parcel of their Weltanschauung. Another is utilitarianism or pragmatism. If you want to have prosperity, if you want to have human interaction, if you want to have civilization, you've got to keep your goddamn mitts to yourself. You can't be grabbing other people and their property. My favorite one comes from Hans-Hermann, and Hans-Hermann has this thing called argument from argument, or the argumentation ethic. And what he says is, look, I'm putting words in his mouth. I have to give it my own interpretation, but I think I've got the gist correct, and I've got several publications supporting him on this, attacking critics of his. What he's saying is, look, the only way you're going to get to the truth is by arguing. If you say something and I punch you in the mouth, it doesn't mean I'm right. The only way I can prove that I'm right and you're wrong is by arguing with you, and you arguing with me, and then we'll see what's true. And then what he says, well, what do you need to have an argument? Well, you need a place to stand. That's private property rights. And you have to prohibit people from punching each other or shooting each other. And that's how he derives the non-aggression principle from the necessity to get to the truth. I think it's brilliant, but I like all of these. Well, I'm not really a big fan of A is A, and I'm an atheist, so I don't go for God says but that's my favorite of all the meta ethics, and non-aggression principle theories. So I would stick with that. I think he's written several books on this, and if you're interested, I would recommend those books.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Deshay. graduating senior. Question: have you gotten into what crypto smart contracts? I feel like in this class we tend to do a lot of looking at history, and not a lot of looking at what is ahead. And I just bring up crypto and these things because is there anything that gives you hope that an anarcho-capitalist order is possible? Um, yeah, is there anything that gives you hope? Is there any emerging technology that you're excited about? Yeah, just looking forward thought.
Well, one thing that gives me hope is you guys. I don't know what your average age is. It looks to be about 22 from the few people I can see. That gives me hope that you people are sitting there and listening and considering. And it's not just you. You know, there are three people that are credited with converting more people to libertarianism than anyone else. I think Ayn Rand for my generation, Ron Paul for your generation, or maybe the generation ahead of you, and Milton Friedman, who is not as perfect a libertarian as I would like. He was a little weak on, I don't know, money and voucher systems, but he had a big megaphone. And uh, what gives me hope is the Libertarian Party, the fact that in each of the 50 states, there's a think tank, a state think tank. In my place, it's the Pelican Institute. There are the Mises Institute, the Cato Institute, the Reason, the what's that group up in New Hampshire, the Free State Project. This gives me hope. I don't know about, and another thing that gives me hope is that we have anarchy between countries. People don't realize how important that is. We don't have world government, thank God. So that gives me hope. Also, technology. You know, at one time when I was your age, maybe a little younger, there were only three TV stations. There was ABC, NBC, and CBS, and PBS. And now, and libertarians couldn't get within a million miles of any of that. Now, I don't know how many, what do you call it, blogs there are. I even have one, Substack. So I think technology is helping us. On the other hand, you know, we've got more and better atom bombs and nuclear bombs, and so that would be a downside of modern technology. One of my books, one of my articles is The Case for Pessimism. Why am I pessimistic about the future of libertarianism? The reason I'm pessimistic about the future of libertarianism is because of sociobiology. What's sociobiology? Sociobiology is the theory that we are the way we are, we act the way we act, we think the way we think, because of what it took to leave progeny to the next generation a million years ago when we were in the caves or in the trees or wherever we were. We were barely walking on two legs. For example, men have a much better sense of direction than women. Why? Because the man had to go 20 miles away to catch a deer, and if he didn't have a good sense of direction to get back, he didn't leave any, or he left fewer children. Women are much more meticulous. When I can't find something in the refrigerator, my wife can find it easily. Why? Because the women stayed close to the cave, and they had to make sure that the poisonous berries weren't eaten. So that would be one example, or two examples of sociobiology. So why are there so few libertarians? Why isn't Ron Paul president, or somebody Rand Paul, or somebody really really good? Why does the Libertarian Party get its usual 1 or 2% of the vote? Sociobiology. Why is this? Well, how many people are in that room? About 15 or so, maybe 20 people. That was the size of the group that we lived in when we were in the caves or the trees a million years ago. Well, when we were in the caves or in the trees a million years ago, we didn't trade. It was all for one, one for all. I mean, it was your cousin or your aunt who was next door to you. And if you saw strangers, you'd try to kill them or they'd try to kill you. So we don't have the genetic code for trade. And all free enterprises is voluntary trade, that we should engage in trade with each other. So I'm a sort of a long-term pessimist. I think it was sort of like with the rock of Sisyphus. We push it up and it comes down, we push it up. Maybe in a million years we'll all be libertarians because our biology will be able to be more suitable to it. But right now, I am a pessimist. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean I'm stopping. I've been at it for 50 years, and I've got, I don't know, a lot of books and a lot of articles, and I give a lot of lectures like this. Why? Not because I think we're going to win, but because it's so much fun, and it's also just. And if you want to promote justice, you have to be a libertarian. If you're not a libertarian, you're not in favor of justice. So I'm not an optimist on the future, but it is the most thing that any anyone can do. I hope I've done justice to your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Whatever.
Thank you. I would say that for my generation, our light is Jurgen. That's why we're here. And also, I think the previous speaker mentioned something that I think is pretty valuable to us winning. And he said that in order for us to be a part of popular culture, we have to be, a part of popular culture. So I think we're working on giving libertarians a cooler face. I'm working on my hair and shit.
Well, look, it's groups like the Menger Institute and the Mises Institute and Cato and all these other groups, the Pelican Institute, that hopefully will promote liberty and we'll do the best we can. So the issue is not whether we'll win or not. As long as we give it our best shot, we can be happy. If we win, great. If we lose, we will have done the best we can to promote liberty.
Amen.
Uh, Hi, Walter. You gave us sort of a little bit of an explanation about private roads and highways, but you also showed us that you've written like a 500-page book on it. So I imagine there's like a bit more to it than just like go under people or go over people. So like what other like sort of gnarly questions about that topic do you sort of go into in there? What other interesting scenarios are there?
Okay, good question. A lot of times, you're on a two-lane highway, and you see one truck right in front of the other, and you know that the second truck is going to try to pass the first. Because if I wait, I'll be behind two trucks that are going at 60 miles an hour, and I can do 75 safely. Well, one rule of the road that I would advocate would be the truck on the right has to let the truck on the left pass him and not fight him off and not floor it. But there is no such rule like that. So that would be another safety measure. Another safety measure is whenever there are accidents, you put up, even nowadays they do it, they put up a cross or a Jewish star or the Islamic symbol. But I'm talking at 50 feet high. I'm talking about a gigantic cross or a gigantic religious symbol or something to indicate danger. And would that work? I don't know, but I'm speculating. I can only speculate. What else do I have? I've got my notes here. Let me see if I can dredge up something else. Oh, I have to read you my Thomas Sowell quote. Here's my Thomas Sowell quote. Thomas Sowell is, I don't know if you people are into him. He's in California. He's at the Hoover Institution, which is another great organization. And what he says is, it's hard to imagine a more stupid or dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. Well, who pays a price for 40,000 people dying? There is such a thing called the National Highway Safety Traffic Administration, NHTSA, something like that. Do they pay anything when somebody dies on the road? No. Whereas if on my road somebody died, I would get less money. This would focus my attention on trying to reduce deaths. My estimation for the number of people who would die under private roads is 10,000. Namely, we'd save 30,000 people. Look, it'd still be deaths, even on the private roads. I mean, you go 75, 80, 85 miles an hour, accidents will happen. People will die. Perfection is beyond our scope. But if we can reduce the number of deaths from 40 to 10,000, We've done a mitzvah in Yiddish or Hebrew, I think, I'm not sure, a good deed. Well, where did I get triple? The way I got triple is I compared public and private in other areas unrelated to roads, and I compared how they did compare to each other. For example, I compared sanitation. We have private sanitation and we have public sanitation. And the private sanitation is one-third as expensive. To move a ton of garbage is one-third of public, and then another one would be post office. There's private post office and then there's public post office. And what I did is I'm extrapolating from those areas where private and public are working in parallel. They're both working, and one is much more efficient than the other. So I figured if we could improve things by three quarters, from sanitation, moving it from public to private, or moving post offices from public to private, well, then as an explication, or what do you call it? An analogy, we would save three quarters of the lives, and three quarters of 40,000 is 30,000. We'd save 30,000 lives, and 10,000 people would still die. But if we could do that would be pretty good. Another, I don't know what the congestion is out there. I think it's probably even worse than here. But sometimes the fastest way to get around New Orleans is on a bicycle. I'm not talking about a motorized bike. I'm talking about a regular bicycle. You go 10, 12, 15 miles an hour on a bicycle, you're the speed demon, because we got bumper to bumper traffic. I used to live in New York City, Brooklyn, and the Long Island Expressway was the longest parking lot in the world. It's 100 miles wide, 100 miles went east to west, and it was bumper to bumper traffic the whole way, 100 miles of bumper to bumper traffic. Happily, what New York City is now doing, and here's another way of saving lives because you don't get as much road rage, is you have peak load pricing. We have peak load pricing for, the movie costs more Saturday night than Tuesday lunch, right? Skiing places charge more during the winter than the summer, right? So if we charge more for driving from 8 in the morning until 6 at night, we'd have less traffic congestion. And you want to go at 3 in the morning, go. You don't have to pay much, or you don't have to pay anything. So that would be yet another way of saving lives. One last question we have, or comment. We have 2 more minutes.
Hi, Walter. My name is Darren Jerjan. I'm the founder of the Institute. I want to give you credit for converting me into anarcho-capitalism. And in turn, hopefully, I'm converting the students in this classroom. So thank you so much for being with us today. Hopefully, we're looking forward to have you in person in our institute in the future, if we get the funding for it. So thank you so much. So big applause to you.
I have a 2-word response to you. Bless you.
Thank you so much.
Starting the Menger Institute. This is magnificent on your part.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.